What is up, guys? All things MTG here. This is another episode of Untap, Upkeep, Draw. The audio is a bit behind because I can't get it to work, so I'm recording it. But I know I've been gone for a while. I've been trying to fix my camcorder, but turns out we have to get a new one. So until then, you'll be getting a lot of Untap, Upkeep draws. But today I have a special deck tech for you. And next week should have a special deck tech for you. Let's get into the first deck tech. You might see the cards splayed out in front of me. Those are the parts of my casual reanimator deck. The reanimation targets, at least. Let's go ahead and get into the targets. For our targets, we have a Grizzlebrand, because a 7/7 flying lifelinker who lets you draw 7 and by paying 7 is really good. It's good enough for Legacy Reanimator to have 4 copies of even. So I'd say it's good enough for me to have a single copy in my green, blue, black casual Reanimator deck. Then I have a Stormtide Leviathan, because an 8/8 Island Walker who makes flying or Island Walk creatures unable to attack is just fun. And he's cool and fun, and that's all. We have one Iona. Lets us block out the color that has removal. Seldomly gets played because of the fact it has it's kind of fun killer. But when we do play it, we usually play when we're playing more cutthroat. And have a Shieldred Whispering one. Allows us to play the slow attrition game by bringing creatures back from our graveyard to the battlefield and making our opponent sacrifice a creature at their beginning of their upkeep. And that goes with the slow attrition because this deck, while its main focus is to beat face with creatures it brings back from the graveyard, we have 2 Lotlith Trolls in the deck. If we need, they let us get creatures from our hand into our graveyard. If we absolutely need to, we can use these and Lotlith Troll, Shieldred, bring her back, and use Lotlith Troll to go on a slow, grindy beatdown plan if we have to. But our next fatty is a Ashen Rider. Lets us the targeted exile when it leaves or enters or dies is great. And the fact it's a sizable flyer. Next we have Thrax, who's a hasty beater who gets bigger. It's all around great. And we have Segu Mauler, who's hard to remove and has trample and is all around just big. And we have Verdant Force, who's just absolutely ginormous and allows us to play the slow grindy game by putting a sapling onto the battlefield each upkeep, and lets us get a sizable army that way. Next we have a Sphinx of Uthud, so a 5/6 flyer, who lets us factor Fiction, which is good because it lets us refill our hand almost a little bit on a big 5/6 flyer. Kinda more selective creature to bring out. This deck wants to play as a toolbox, so we have a wide variety of threats. Next we have Archfiend of Depravity to stop the kind of slower Swarm and Token decks, the faster I should say. Then we have in Begarden Hellkite to finish off players or any big creatures or tokens. And we have Sire of Insanity. It's a nightmare for control players. Makes them sacrifice their hand. Discard their hand, being the end step. Next we have Grave Titan, who just makes, he's a big death toucher who just makes a pretty sizable army that lets you block every turn. Strength of the Steel Wind is just an all-around great beater who you can't even go wrong with. There's no point going wrong with him. It's impossible to. And he's just so useful. But that was the last of the reanimation spells. So let's get to the other cards. The core of the deck. Let's start with our support spells, shall we? We have 4 copies of Dark Ritual. Allows us to power out a turn 1 Buried Alive, which we have 4 copies of Buried Alive. Lets us power out a turn 1 Buried Alive. 2, put 3 creatures into our graveyard. Really all it's good for. Or lets us hardcast our threats. Or chain Duress and Exhume, or chain reanimation spells. Next card we have is 2 copies of Duress. For 1 black, it lets us take out a kill spell or board wipe or any other harmful non-creature, non-land cards from our opponent's hand, and discards them, which is all around really helpful. Next we have 2 rapid hybridizations, because they let us destroy a creature that is problematic for us, and it's cheap, both money and mana cost wise, and I haven't had any problems with it. And then we have 4 Brainstorm to allow us to filter our hand to find whatever we need to let us do our game plan. And then we have 4 copies of Buried Alive to search our library for 3 creatures and put them into our graveyard, which lets us reanimate our fatties, which is what we want to be doing. And then we have 4 support creatures in the deck. 2 Lotlith Troll. He is my favorite creature because we can go, if we need to, we can do a secondary game plan of beating down with him because he gets big, getting creatures from our hand into our graveyard. He just gets absolutely massive, and so I like beating face with him, and he does that really well, not to mention the fact that he regenerates. So, and he has trample. But our next creature is we have 2 copies of Lotlith Troll and 2 copies of Dawnstrider, who lets us fog the battlefield by discarding a card from our hand. Not even a creature, just any card, which makes it really good. However, the 1/1 body isn't great. That's the one thing I don't like about it. I may trade it for 2 Magus of the Bazaar to just have straight draw 3, discard 2, because that seems slightly more effective, but only time will tell if it lives up to the expectations. Then we have 8 reanimation spells. We have 3 Exhume, really good. Actually, no, hold on, I miscounted. Sorry, we have 8 reanimation spells. Yeah, that's right. Okay, my bad. We have 4 Exhume. Lets us put a creature card from our graveyard into play, along with our opponents though, so it's not as effective. But it's still not bad, because most of the time our threats should be outclassing theirs, and it's good that way. However, there are occasionally times when it has a downside, but usually the creature's abilities make up for that downside. Next we have 2 Victimize to let us get 2 creatures instead of 1. And I like it, except for the fact that you have to sacrifice a creature as an additional cost. And other than that, I really like it, because it gets you 2 creatures, but they do enter tapped. And then I have 2 copies of Stitch together, because it allows us to put a creature into play if we have Threshold, which most of the time, if we manage to hit a turn 1 Buried Alive, follow it up with a turn 2, like, because we have Buried Life. Let's go Dark Rit Swamp. Or we can go Lotus Petal, which is an upgrade I'm putting in the deck soon. Go to Lotus Petal, Sacrifice, that's 1. Dark Rituals, 2. You're just short of 6 on for a turn 2 Stitch Together. You could play another Dark Ritual and a Stitch Together followed by Duress to get you to the threshold. But yeah, that gets you threshold. But another thing we could do is if we don't have threshold but if we're going on the beatdown plan with Lawlith Troll, we can return a creature to our hand, just discard it to make the troll bigger. We can do that if we need to. And the rest of the deck is just assorted creatures, or no, assorted lands that give us, and my mouse just flew off the table. Okay, assorted lands that give us black, blue, and green. But let's look at Star City Games Columbus. We'll look at standard first. Kind of a breakdown of the field here. We have first we have a 4-color rally by Jacob Bow, and then a Bant aggro deck by Andy Ferguson, a Abzan mid-range deck by Jake Rupp, a Rakdos Dragons deck by Tim Ross, 4-color rally again by Matthew Takal, Dark Justice Guy by Andrew Tenjum, Mardu mid-range by Daniel Seidel, and Orzhov Control by Raja Suleiman. Now the first 4-color rally deck is interesting. Playing 4 Reflector Mage, 1 Liliana, 2 Elvish Visionary, a sideboarded Kalitas, and Felidar Cub in the sideboard, which is something I haven't seen before. The Bant aggro deck, the entire list is interesting. I haven't seen Bant in a while. Same with Orzhov Control. Now Rakdos Dragons is interesting, but I don't think it's interesting enough to get into it. I was hoping Abzan midrange is dead, but I guess not. And it's just the same as any other Abzan midrange deck. Really no point in getting into it. But otherwise, voice crack there. Otherwise, that was Star City Game. That was the standard. Let's go to modern. On the modern side of Columbus, Dan Jessup played first he got a blue-green infect deck, playing a Twisted Image, a Vidrian Corruptor, and a Wild Defiance that I haven't seen in a while. Second, we have Joey Miss Pagel and a green-red Scapeshift deck. Third is Burn and Andrew Minier. And then green-red Tron by Joey Falsig. No, I feel so bad because I messed up. I just butchered that name. Next we have Affinity by Lance Bullock. And then another green-red Tron deck by Hobble Hagen. I do so believe that is. No, Hobby Hagen, sorry. Then a Jund deck by Eric Rose. Haven't seen one of those in a while. Then a Naya Zoo deck by Michael Likens. Now green-red Scapeshift, not one I've seen before. Playing Coney Hard Expedition. One thing that really interested me when I first tried to do this is a 4 Jodi Offshoot in the sideboard. Now that just interested me so much, and I don't even know why. Like, I don't even know why Jodi Offshoots in the sideboard was so interesting, because like, it really, but otherwise, I was a little surprised blue's not in there, but there. Then this Jund deck playing a Kalitas in the sideboard. I believe, nope, different deck, sorry. It was Naya's Zoo, I think. Let's check. No, okay. I'm just getting everything wrong today. However, we do have 2 hangerbacks in Affinity. That is quite interesting. But yeah, otherwise, got 4 Arcbound, 1 Etched Champion, 2 Hangerback, 2 Master of Ethereum, 2 Memnite, 4 Ornithopter, 4 Signal Pest, 1 Spellskite, 3 Steel Overseer, and 4 Vault Scourge with 4 Galvanic Blast, 4 Cranial Plating, 4 Mox Opal, 4 Springleaf, 1 Mountain, 4 Blink Moth Nexus, 4 Darksteel Citadel, 4 Glimmer Void, 4 Ink Moth. Then we have a burn deck. The burn deck here, pretty standard burn deck. 3 Arid Mesa, 3 Mire, 3 Scalding Tarn, 2 Foot Stomping Ground, 3 Wooded Foothills, and 7 Mountains. Then Green Red Tron. The first list of Joey Falsigno, playing 2 Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger and 1 Warping Whale, along with an Ugin the Spirit Dragon, another Warping Whale in the sideboard, and 2 Thragtusk in the sideboard. And the Green Red Tron deck by Hobie Hagen has 1 Emrakul, 1 Thought-Knot Seer, 1 Ulamog Ceaseless Hunger, 2 Worldbreaker, 3 Kozilek's Return. Sideboard is 1 Ghost Quarter, 2 Crumble to Dust, 1 Matter Reshaper, 4 Nature's Claim, 3 Relic of Progenitus, 1 Ugin the Spirit Dragon, 1 Warping Whale, 1 Worldbreaker, and 1 Wormcoil Engine. So, hey, let's look at Legacy, shall we? For Legacy, we'll go last major events. Let's look at Madrid, shall we? We've got, first we have a Bug midrange deck, Soul Type Aggro / midrange by Aurelio Crespo. Looks fairly standard. We have a Storm deck from Eduardo Saj Gallic. I butchered that so hard. A second Storm deck by Rodrigo Tagores, and you'll never believe it, a third Storm deck piloted by Raul Alonso. Then another Bug Aggro midrange deck by Danny Castillo, a Grixis Delver deck piloted by Andres Torres and Tole, another show and tell deck piloted by, oh lord, Luis Alberto Nunes Martin, and then a Blue-White Miracles deck piloted by Pablo Marcos. So, yeah. Let's look at these Storm decks, see what makes them so popular. 4 Lion's Eye Diamond, 1 Ad Nauseam, 4 Brainstorm, 4 Cabal Ritual, 3 Cabal Therapy, 2 Dark Petition, 4 Dark Ritual, 3 Duress, 4 Gataxian Probe, 4 Infernal Tutor, 1 Past in Flames, 4 Ponder, 2 Preordain, and 1 Tendrils, 4 Lotus Petal. That's a one by Eduardo Saj Gallic. Then Rodrigo Tagores has 1 Ad Nauseam, 1 Reign of Filth, 3 Cabal Therapy, 4 Dark Ritual, Sensei's Divining Top. The third Storm deck piloted by Raul Alonso. See what makes it different from the other two. 2 Dark Petition. Okay. 1 Past in Flames, 1 Chrome Mox, and 4 Duress. Danny Castillo's deck. Three Liliana. We do Show and Tell. Let's look at that one, shall we? Emerald Cool Grizzle Brand. So, that is indeed the events for Legacy, Modern, and Standard. So, let's talk about some news, shall we? After Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch and the Splinter Twin bannings, we have a flood of different Eldrazi decks using the new Eldrazi popping up and just completely owning everything. So now people are scared that Eldrazi's likely the best deck in Standard. Or best deck in Modern, sorry. Which, you know, maybe not. You never know. In a few weeks, a different deck will come and beat it, I am positive. But, until then, people are scared, people are freaking out, calling for emergency bans. Which in my opinion is not necessary. But, you know, who cares? Okay. Then, of course, we have Standard. Not really much news there. And next week, though, we will be having a special deck tag for you. Don't forget to follow my Twitter, because I post a lot of stuff there. I just don't think anyone's on it, because, you know, yeah. If you want to follow my Twitter, you get a lot of news and stuff about different deck ideas, you know, changes I make to decks, videos I upload, all sorts of things. And if you go ahead and I'll put a link to my Twitter in the description. But go ahead if you want. Tell me what your favorite deck is you play in each format you play. What deck you play in Standard and or Modern are. And go ahead and tell me how much it cost you. That's interesting because I want to know how expensive it is. Considering I'm making a black-green aristocrats deck, and that's what I'm rolling with Standard, and I guess I just spoiled the surprise for you guys for next week, because I'm going to do my black-green aristocrats deck. But, you know, don't forget to follow my Twitter, because you'll get lots of stuff there. You'll get lots of info. In fact, I'm surprised no one is. But I'll put a link in the description, so go ahead and say that and stuff. And I do sometimes do giveaways, so if you want to know about those. Although last time I tried, kind of fell flat. So, but however, yeah. And really at this point, I don't really have much to say. Except for, you know, I have to, some channels I have to point out to you guys that really help me as a Magic player. You ready to get your pen and paper down? There's quite a lot. First off, a channel I really love to watch and really entertains me is Talarian Community College. He's really helpful with modern and even standard advice. And then of course, the mana source is also helpful. And MTG Degree is a person I just discovered who's really helpful. I'll link them all in the description for you. But go check them out. There are actually some really great videos from each of them. And another channel I do watch, although, let's see, let's check for you guys. Subscriptions. Magic has an interesting series. I like watching their playing on up their videos because they're interesting to see decks people come up with limited money. Star City Games I watch sometimes. Absolute MTG, that's a channel that I like to watch. I watch Gauntlet of Greatness by Card Kingdom, even though at this point you guys don't care. But those are all some channels that help me grow as a Magic player, and I'm sure you might want to know. And I'll link a few of them in the description for you guys. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to tune in next week for my Green Black Aristocrats mid-range, or Aristocrats standard deck tag. And don't forget, while you're on my Twitter, you can ask any MTG questions or questions about me that you like, and I'd probably answer them on here. But other than that, please like, subscribe, and favorite this video, and don't forget to tell your friends about me, because all of that is great. I will see you guys later. Bye!